Recording. All right, let's see here. See if some people are coming in. We do have folks coming in. Right on. Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on A Complete Guide to Getting Started in Voiceovers. We are very excited. We are in week 3. And it's all about home studios this week. A very exciting week. You get to come in and ask loads of questions with our wonderful sound engineer, voiceover artist, record specialist, Roger Woods. I'll tell you more about him in a minute. Rachel won't be joining us today, so it's just myself, Roger, and Alan Shires with us today. Let me see. Let's make sure that everyone can hear us. If you could just let me know you can hear us, that would be great. Just type there in the chat box. I'm joining you today from Florida, as you can see, with the palm trees in the background. I'm headed back to the UK today, so I'm excited about that if everything goes well. So I'm Lisa Fisicaro. I'm the I do all of the business operations with the VoiceOver Network. And we've got Alan Shires with us today. Hi, Alan.
Hello everyone. Good to see you again.
Right on. You all know Alan from before with the other recordings with Rachel. He helps us manage our social media and a whole lot of other stuff. So thanks, Alan, for joining. So before I introduce Roger, I just wanted to do a recap with you guys of what our homework was for last week. There was quite a lot, so I hope to see more of you in the Facebook group. We had homework to practice your sight reading. We wanted you to practice reading out loud, which is always a fun project. Everyone can do that. And we want you to share your social media handles in the Facebook group. And also share 3 areas you'd like to focus on in the voiceover industry in the Facebook group. That's just a fun exercise to kind of share with your fellow team and attendees, which is a lot of fun. And then that also in the future, you know which area you all are focusing on. So yeah, so that's quite fun. Right, so let's just get started. We have a lot to cover today, and we've got the wonderful Roger Woods with us today. He's an award-winning voiceover artist, 25 plus years of experience. He helps us with all of our home studio tech information, and yeah, I'll just hand it over to you, Roger, and let you fill in the gaps there.
Thank you. I just correct you once. Double award-winning voiceover artist these days. So there you go.
Right.
Yeah,
yes, absolutely.
Great. And I think I'm on my way for a third one because I'm working with a client who's about to do something similar with an award. Anyway.
Awesome.
Who am I? As Lisa says, I sort of just hang around in the background of the VoiceOver Network. My very first voiceover was back in 1985. It was for Mammoth Carpets in Canterbury and Maidstone. It was a split commercial for what was then Invicta Radio, which is now part of the Global Network. And I have followed that on with a career in broadcasting as a journalist, as well as a producer, a presenter, station manager. And I have this sort of curious, the curious existence as a sort of bit of a geek when it comes to studio technology. A very good friend of mine, a very good friend of my sister's, her father was a sound engineer at the BBC, and he always told me I should be an engineer, and I wanted to be a journalist. But I combine the pair these days, which is not bad at all. What today is all about home studios. So Amina, Tamara, Polly, Rosie, Galaxy 8S, there's a lot of those around. Mandy and John I'd really like to know whether or not you have a studio and if you've got anything and maybe just what your kit is. So if you want to type that in the box while I'm talking, that is fine. Because today is going to be, I don't know, you might not have had one of these sort of sessions. Maybe you've just had talking heads in the past. But what I'm going to do is I am going to share my screen with you, which is this one. And we are going to be talking about home studios. So what have we got? Alan Shires, well done. 2i2 and Rode NT1A. Excellent. Now, all you got to do is follow suit. Just add them in when you get, when you've got a moment. So, Mandy, you're starting from scratch, which is good. So this is ideal for you, Mandy. Rose is the same, no studio at all, but you run what was that? A MacBook Pro. Very good. Honey has nothing. Amina, nothing. You are the perfect candidates for today's session. Absolutely. Home Voiceover Studio. Believe you me, I found this graphic that can you see that graphic on screen, by the way, everybody? Excellent.
Definitely.
Got a nod. Once upon a time, I had a studio that looked very familiar, very similar to that. But these days, it's much more streamlined. I found that particular cartoon online, and I thought it was sort of apt because studios once upon a time looked like that. They don't these days. So what's needed to record at home? You're all going to tell me a microphone, a computer, an audio interface, and some software, which is exactly what you need. I read an article some time ago that said you needed a mic, a stand, and a computer. That's as far as it went. Then it also suggested you might need some headphones. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to briefly move a box that's blocking my screen out of the way. If my mouse is working, I won't. And it also said you need access to the internet. The one thing the article didn't say, and it went on for ages about being a voiceover, was that you needed software. So they are the key components to a home studio. You also need a really quiet space to be creative in. Now, that particular graphic there breaks down the UK and shows you what are the sort of the noisiest elements. So in London, as you can see, there's a lot of licensed premises. There's also a hell of a lot of residential premises. There's commercials, there's sports and leisure. All these things are going on around us. So if you are working in a city, you're likely to be influenced by some of those noises. Or if you are in Florida, you've got lorries, dogs, parakeets going on in the background, because I can hear those because you haven't muted your mic yet, or someone hasn't anyway, which is great. But you do need a quiet space. And as you can see from Alan, he is surrounded by a lot of foam. Are you still under the stairs? You still are under the stairs, are you? Or,
I am indeed, yeah.
He's under the stairs. And I'm in a box, which is in an office that I have at the end of the garden. So does it matter what you record with? The simple answer is no, but. Yeah. Once upon a time, I would say, yes, you need this, you need that, you need the other. But the answer is no. The whole point of home recording or being able to record from home is to be able to provide good, clean audio for your clients. Simple as that. So it really does not matter what you use to record on. But of course, there are standards, or there are varying levels of hardware and software that you can buy or acquire to make the job easier. One of the first things is to look at some of the options. Microphones for starters. Now, is your mic in shot? No, it's not, is it, Alan? Alan's got a microphone that's connected by XLR. So have I. That's this little cable at the top of the screen here, if you can see me in the pop out on the side of the screen. And some people are using USB microphones. Now, a few years ago, if someone said to me, I'm going to use a USB microphone, I would have cringed. But today, there are some fantastic USB microphones on the market. Here's a range. The white one at the top left, the blue-white ball, is called a Snowball. You can pick that up in Argos for about 30 quid, but please do not go and buy that. Do not go and buy that. The other end of the scale is bottom right, and that is a Lewitt microphone made by guys who have broken away from two of the big microphone companies, Neumann and Sennheiser, and created their own firm in Austria. And that is around about £1,000 USB mic. Surprisingly, it is outstanding in its quality, and everything between it are some of the more popular microphones you can buy. Although, having said don't buy the blue, don't buy the one next to it, which is the Yeti. Although I have to say the new Yeti Mini is very popular, particularly at the moment with COVID-19, and the Samsung on the end Yeah, try and give that a wide berth if you possibly can. The ones on the bottom from left to right are an Audio Technica AT2020. There's the Rode NT USB. There's the Sennheiser Mark IV Digital. There's an Apogee MC, and then there's the Lewitt. And between the two, it's from about £79 to about £1,000 thereabouts. Middle of the road with the Sennheiser is about £300 or £400, but the Rode is a particularly good mic as well. Same capsule as the mic that Alan has, so it's a good solid mic. There we are. That's the NT1A in Alan's booth. XLR microphones. These are microphones that are connected by a cable to another box. We'll get to the box in a moment. So you've got the Shure at the top left. That's very popular if you're a cabaret performer or a singer or what have you. That's the sort of bog standard mic you would use for that. It was the leading mic a few years ago. Other people have got different versions of it. Bottom right is everybody's dream, is to have a Neumann U87 in their booth at around about £2,500. And again, there are some mics you want to have and some mics you don't want to have. You don't want to have the top two on the left-hand side. The one next to the Shure is something called an SMB7, very popular in American radio stations. The Scarlett in the middle is a good quality entry-level mic. I know people who are doing fantastic work as narrators, as e-learning producers and other bits and pieces using that mic. And then, of course, you've got a cable version of the AT2020, the AT2035. And I think my mouse, for some unknown reason, has decided that it's not going to play ball today. But I want to get rid of the... I've got a panelist. What is that? What's the mic next to the AT2020? Alan? Can't see it, maybe.
No.
I think it's the Aston. It's possibly the Aston mic, which is around about 200 quid. Nice mic. And if I could get my mouse to work properly, I would get it off so I can see it. The bottom row of mics are professional broadcast microphones. So you've got an SE mic, an SE, that's 002 something or other, but there's a very popular version that's used in voiceover. The mic I have in my studio, which is the Neumann 103, that's about £1,000 worth of mic, and the one next to it is a very popular mic for people who do the trailer. The American trailer guys love the Sennheiser MK416. Why? I have absolutely no idea, because you can get just the same response from something like the TLM 103 or the U87. And why I say the U87 is what everyone dreams of. It's a great mic, but you only ever use it in one polar pattern, and that is a cardioid pattern, which is the pattern that picks up the voice from the front and just slightly off axis. And basically, if you strip down the mic on the bottom at the far right-hand side to its bare essentials, you have a TLM 103, and you can get exactly the same response from it. So you've got options with USB or XLR microphones. Now, if you use an XLR microphone, and do ask questions if you're getting lost or want to know more, you need an audio interface. And again, audio interfaces come in all shapes and sizes and price ranges. Very popular in home studios is the Scarlett Solar, which is top left. You've got the Presonus Studio One, you've got an M Audio box, you've got an Avid box. Then there's the Audient ID22, which is what I have in my studio. The Apollo Twin, which is a bit of overkill in the middle there, and real overkill is the Apogee Quartet right at the end. You just need a good, solid box to get the audio from your XLR microphone into your computer. And any of those will fit the purpose. Alan popped up that he's got a 2i2, which is great. Works really well. Does exactly well. Look, does exactly what it says on the box. It gets audio from your microphone into the computer. And what that box does, it takes the analog signal that is being generated by the microphone, and through some analog to digital converter chips inside, then makes it accessible to the computer. That's all it is, essentially. Some of the bigger boxes have more functionality. Some of the smaller boxes just do one or two things, and that's it. Again, it doesn't matter what your interface is. It's budget dependent in many respects for some people. It just enables you to get good, clean audio into your machine and eventually off to your client. Headphones, well, we're all wearing a different variety of headphones. Don't wear earbuds under any circumstance at all. Don't wear earbuds unless you have got some really good earbuds. Shure do some amazing earbuds, which are absolutely stunning quality, but you're paying big bucks for them. Do not use the earbuds that come with your mobile phone because they just will not cut the mustard. The Scarlett in the middle, the red ones, you'll see why they're colored and everything else in black and white a little later on. But the Scarlett headphones are pretty good going, great utility set of headphones. Next to that, there's a pair of Sennheisers. And again, my mouse is in the wrong, my box is in the wrong place. Because underneath there's another pair of headphones which I can't see, and then at the bottom, these are the ones you commonly see in studios. So at the bottom, you've got a pair of Beyer DT100s. In the middle, you've got a pair of Audio-Technica ATH40s or 50s, something similar to that, and the DT770 Pros, which is what I'm wearing. What are you wearing, Alan?
I don't actually know. It's the one you told me to buy.
Well, that must be the AT.
Yeah.
The AT, he's got the ones in the middle, and I'm wearing the ones.
Right.
There you go. The idea is with headphones that you buy once and you buy good. So I have I have several pairs of Beyer DT 100s, and I don't think any one of them is less than 30 years old, and they still work just as well today as I did originally when I originally bought them. My most recent pair of headphones are the ones in the middle because they collapse down into a nice little tight ball and you can chuck them in a bag. And the DT 770 Pros, which is what I'm wearing currently, they are my ones in the studio. And the key to all these headphones is that they are called closed back headphones, which means that when you have got other audio in your headphones being played to you, maybe from your studio, your client, or you're on a directed session, which we'll talk about shortly, their voice or whatever's coming to you in your headphones does not bleed out and get into your microphone chain. Because if the audio comes out of your headphones or you're listening to your headphones too loud and gets into your mic and your recording, you can't get rid of it. It's as simple as that. So when you're listening on headphones, listen at a comfortable level. Do not over-listen to them. Don't have the volume too high because it could potentially start to damage your hearing, but also it could just creep out and get into your audio, and then you have to start again from scratch, unfortunately. But headphones are very important. The Scarlett headphones, maybe 35, 40 quid. The DT770 Pros down the bottom there, about 100, 120 quid. And if you buy a good set of headphones, they will last an awfully long time. So we've done mics, we've done interface, we've done headphones. What do we record on? Well, to be perfectly honest with you, the choice is yours. You can either go for a Microsoft Windows-based machine, so that's the operating system that runs on the computer, or you can choose an Apple Mac OS system. So you can either go for a see-through or fruity, depending on which way you want to look at it. But you're not confined to using just a desktop computer. You could use a laptop, again, Windows or Mac. Choice is yours. If you're greedy, you have two. I have an iMac on my desk, and I have a MacBook that I cart around with me when I'm sort of not in the studio. Or you could use a tablet or a mobile. They're all, these days, all of these devices are capable of recording really good quality audio using the right software with the right interface attached to it. And I've no water in the booth with me, which is really annoying. So again, you've got a myriad of choices. Most people will use a laptop these days, or they'll have the studio option of having one on the desk, an iMac, or something similar. Editing software. Yeah, there's a lot of it around, but these are popular pieces of software because they are free. All these pieces of software are free. So if you are starting out, you haven't got the budget to buy something big, and we'll talk about something big in a moment, you can go to the Audacity or the Osun Audio or the NCH or PreSonus website and download free copies of their software. And Audacity seems to be ubiquitous amongst voiceover artists. It's the one everyone seems to download. It's the one people get to grips with. And some people actually never move on from it. One of the people I know, one of my acquaintances, is a very, very busy audio, does loads and loads of gaming, loads of character stuff. And his setup is a simple mic. Actually he does actually have a Sennheiser shotgun mic, the MH 416, and but he has a 2i2 Focusrite 2i2 audio interface, and he uses Audacity, and he will not change any of the software or any of the hardware or even his Windows computer, because that's what he started with. That's what he knows. He doesn't want to go through the whole process of relearning software or changing to another operating system, and he's been doing it for decades. All of these pieces of software are free, so take a note. That's the Audacity audio editor. Very simple interface. What's interesting there is that that's a single line of audio, so you always record in mono. There's no point in recording in stereo. You only have one microphone, and you only need to send them one channel of audio. If they want to do something whizzy with it at the other end, the client or studio end, they will do what they need to do with it. If they need to convert it into stereo or create an effects and all the other bits and pieces, they will do it. But all you need to do is send one linear mono track to the studio. Therefore, you only need to record one linear mono track. A lot of people will open up Audacity and go straight in without checking any of the settings and end up with 2 tracks of audio. There's nothing wrong with that at all, but studios like to make sure that it's, for some bizarre reason, they'd like to have it in mono. You send them a stereo track, sometimes they bounce it back and say, can you convert it into mono? No, you can do that. You know how to do it, which is interesting. So Audacity, great piece of software. Yeah.
So Roger, we've just got a few questions coming in. But the first one is there an audio interface software for USB mics?
Very good question. The answer to that is yes and no. The reason being is that a lot of USB audio interfaces and mics are what they call class compliant these days. And class compliant means that the circuitry within the device already has the software loaded on it. So when you plug it in, as with any USB device, it will tell you that it is loading a new piece of software or a new piece of hardware, and it will tell you, particularly if you're on Windows, that it is ready to use. I'm not familiar with any specific piece of software for any of the microphones that I have shown you on the screen there. There may be the odd exception. As they're class compliant, the sound control panel in both Mac and Windows will automatically identify them. So all you need to do is make sure that they are in that sound panel. And if they're going to be your default device for playing all audio or recording audio as well as playing audio back, you just need to make sure that they are the default item. With Windows, one little top tip, you might not need it right now, but I'll just place it there because you'll then in the future go, I heard this before. Within the Windows sound panel, you have to go through a couple of screens, but there is a box to untick because when you get Windows, it will be ticked that it says whatever device is connected is solely for the application that you are working in. If you untick it, you can then use your USB mic or your USB interface simultaneously in your audio recorder, your Skype call, your Zoom call, or whatever. If you don't do that, you'll find that other devices become disabled from that audio unit. If you're working in Audacity and you want to do a Skype call, you can't. So you have to find that little tick box and untick it to make it universally available to all the devices. Does that make sense? Good. Anything else? What else we got?
Yeah. So can you use Beats Studio 3?
They're wireless mic. They're wireless headphones, aren't they?
I believe they are, yes.
So no, because there's a time delay. Although it's only minuscule, it's a time delay, and you don't really want to complicate things when you're looking in the audio.
She says they are wired. It says you can.
If they're wired, they're wired, yes, but it goes back to if they're closed back headphones, that's fine. If you're just using them for editing and you're not using them for a scenario like this, where I can hear Alan can hear me, but we're not picking one another up in one another's mics when we're talking, providing they're closed back and they don't bleed, that's fine. But if you're, I know this will sound peculiar. If you're going to take voiceover seriously, you need to, I would say go with the program, but you have to just see what other people are using, see what other people are talking about. The Bose, the Beats, those sorts of things, certainly the Bose because they're wireless and they're Bluetooth. It just complicates things in the process because you're going to have to record on one device, play back on another device. If you're recording and playing back through your Solo or your Audient ID4 or whatever, then that's fine. If they're cabled mics, it's again, you start getting into problems if you're using an audio interface to record and you're using, let's say, the laptop speakers to play back, because they're doing a double conversion job. It's a bit technical, and the best, if you're going to do that, have a play and see what the results are, because you'll choose one way or the other at the end of the day, or you'll be asking me or somebody else about why is there a problem. Does that answer that one? Hopefully, yes.
So just to summarize on that point then, Roger, would you say the headphones themselves are fine, but when you're in a recording scenario, make sure that you're using the wired feature rather than the wireless feature?
Correct.
Perfect. Okay, next question is, I've already sort of answered this one, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on the USB mic side of things. Where do the headphones plug into?
Very good question. The answer to that is if you buy a decent USB microphone, they plug into the body of the mic. I just happen to have one here. And if you can see on the side of that particular mic, that's a Rode NT1 USB. See, I'm not even afraid to use one of these. You've got a couple of controls there, and at the bottom, you've got a little headphone jack. So once you've plugged the USB connector in the bottom into your laptop, and the software has found it, you are able to control the level of the volume in the headset using the button at the bottom there. And you have a little button here that allows you to mix between the audio coming back from the laptop into your headphones and the audio that you are generating going into the mic. So it's a little mixer in many respects. And the Rode NT USB is a great mic. You can get a discount if you're a member of the VoiceOver network. Rode have just issued a mini USB, which is also very nice as well. And as I said a little earlier, Blue, who are now owned by Logitech, have just released a thing called a Blue Yeti, a Blue Yeti Mini, which is actually a scaled down version of their older Yeti microphone, which was full of bugs. But this one, the new one, is very similar to that. So you plug them into the body of the mic. But not all USB mics have that facility. So try and avoid Behringer CO1s, avoid some of the really early Audio Technica USB mics. It's the 2025 or 2035s that have got that feature on them. So good question, good call.
And then the last one we've got are, where is it? Are there closed back versions of mainstream headphones like Beats, Bose, or Sony?
There are closed back. They're called closed back because they actually encase your ears. If they sit on your ears, as some of them do, then they're not particularly closed. They're not closed back. They're semi-closed back. That's the jobbing. If you can get your ear in there, you're onto a winner. So if they sit on your ear, then you have to try them. If they sit over your ear, they're closed back. I haven't got them here, and I don't know where they are, but I did have some Sennheiser headphones, which were basically just got flat. If they're flat at the front and they haven't got a cup for your ear, they'll sit on your ear. If they've got the cup, they'll sit over your ear, and that's a closed back mic, a closed back headphone. Excellent. More questions. So we talked about free software. Let's talk about paid software. You might notice that the previous slide there had Studio One on it, and this has Studio One on it. Studio One is a software produced by PreSonus. Some of it comes bundled with some of their devices, including the audio interface I showed you a little earlier. And Studio One, as a paid software, has a few more bells and whistles, but it's a great piece of software. AU stands for is the acronym for Adobe Audition. Adobe Audition is a very popular software among voiceover artists. Some of us have been using it a very, very, very long time, when it was called something completely different, called Cool Edit. The two mentioned at the bottom, Pro Tools and Logic Pro X. Logic Pro X is a Mac-only piece of software, and is if you have a Mac and you're familiar with GarageBand, Logic Pro X is a souped up version of GarageBand. Actually, it's a really nice piece of software, and it's a one-time only purchase at around about £199. Studio One is around about £70–80 for the basic version. Adobe Audition is a annual subscription that works out relatively at about £25 a month, or about £250 for the year. And at the bottom, Pro Tools 12 is also a subscription piece of software, but it's very much designed for recording more than one linear track. I mean, they're all designed for recording more than one linear track at the time, but Adobe Audition seems to have found its sort of place within the voiceover world. Pro Tools 12 will be more than happy at home in the Abbey Road studio recording a full orchestra, and it won't even break out a sweat, because that's what it's designed to do. It's a multi-track piece of software. There are people who are voiceover artists who use Pro Tools, and for those of you coming into voiceover and having to learn the skills of recording and editing and possibly audio processing, there is a huge learning curve with Pro Tools. I open it and I close it and I don't look at it again, really. I just open it for fun periodically, just to see what it does, and it just confuses me, and I close it again. But as I say, I've been using Adobe Audition since it came onto the market back in 1997 or 1998. Yeah, I know it inside out, upside down, back to front. Nice piece of software. So you've got free software and paid for software. Start free, move to the paid software as and when you need it. And you're an Audacity user, aren't you?
Me? Yes, I am very much an Audacity user.
Yep. Nope. That's good. Windows or Mac? It's a Windows, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, yeah. Now, you know my setup better than I do.
Well, we've had enough conversations about it. So there you are. That's sort of the digital audio workstation sort of stuff. Now, and that's what Adobe Audition looks like. And I'm not even sure if I got it running in the background here. I don't think I have. Otherwise, I'd show you my setup. But essentially, that's what mine looks like. That was a screen grab off of mine. And if you're wondering what the red bar's underneath there, that's called a spectral view, and basically allows you to pick out if there are anything going on in the background, particularly in the gaps. So if you see the wide gap on the bottom of the red and orange screen, you can just see a little bit of coloration there. So there's a little bit of noise in the background. So it gives you an idea of where noise might be in quiet passages. And actually, Audacity allows you to do that as well. If you dig deep enough into the bowels of the presets, you can find that as well. So that's what Adobe Audition looks like. Now, we talked earlier about directed sessions and how important headphones were that had closed back so that if somebody was talking to you, it wouldn't bleed into your recording. Now, you're all fairly new to VoiceOver, so this might not apply, but you need to know where the business is going, because right now it has never, ever, ever been so important to be able to make a connection to a studio remotely in good quality, because a lot of the studios in London, Manchester, Birmingham, New York, LA, wherever, are not operating because of COVID-19. And just on Friday, I saw a couple of email posts and a couple of social media posts saying, and these were coming from established agents as well as studios, saying, are you a pro home studio user? Are you an experienced voiceover? We need you to get in touch with us, because we are still working, but we can't have people in our studios. We can't be there. The voices can't be there. And some of the agents, of course, have a lot, and forgive me if any of you are, a lot of jobbing actors who work in VO when they're resting, or they're doing some other job that's specific for them, and they don't have home studios. So the agencies now are going, I've got a huge list of talent, and only a third of them have a home studio, and some of them are not competent. They're not technically adept. They're and we need people with a pro studio that sounds good, that can connect remotely. So remote contribution or remote direction is something that is very of the moment, right on trend right now. And up until recently, the way to do it would be through a system called ISDN, Integrated Service Digital Network. It's a very upmarket telephone line from BT. It's 30 years old. The system is about to be pulled with all the other copper that goes into people's homes by 2025. And it is a redundant technology. And you needed a big, expensive box to go with it, hence that little sort of APT IP ISDN codec. And if you are building a studio on a budget and you've spent, let's say, £250 on a mic and interface and a piece of software, you don't want to spend £3,000 or £4,000 on a box to plug them into. So remote contribution or direction has gone digital, and you can use your broadband at home if you've got a good enough subscriber package, and realistically you can use Skype, you can use Facebook, you can use FaceTime, you can use WhatsApp, you can use Zoom, as we are now, to do a directed session. With all directed sessions, you still record locally on your machine using your software, using these methods. However, again, the advent of technology has moved on at such a pace that you can now ditch your ISDN and go for services that are bespoke to the internet using something that's embedded into a Google browser. And then you've got organizations like Bodalgo offering Bodalgo Call. You've got a company in Manchester called CleanFeed offering CleanFeed. You've got IPDTL, you've got Source Connect now, you've got SessionLink Pro. They all allow you to connect in super studio quality to producers, agencies, clients, using the internet at, in some instances, very little expense because they're free, and others for a subscription or a longer term package offer. They work, believe you me, they work. And there's been another development in the recent past with something called SIP audio offered by IPDTL, whereby a lot of manufacturers that used to manufacture these boxes that sit at the top here are now manufacturing same boxes, but with a piece of software enabled inside them to allow you to connect to them over the internet. So you can either connect virtually or from computer to computer, or you can now connect box to box or computer to box and vice versa. Very clever. And that will allow you to basically doing what we're doing now. I can talk to Alan, Alan can talk to me, he's in Leeds, I'm in Norwich, in Norfolk. And you can do that anywhere in the world to anybody who is either SIP enabled or IP enabled to talk to anyone. The one product that I haven't mentioned on there, I've mentioned Source Connect now, but they also do a pro version, which is a bespoke version, which is very much a case of point to point. So Alan would need the same software as I have to be able to make that call. And again, that is a bespoke product, so it comes at a premium price. To get a little dongle to enable you to use that software, and we'd both need one, it's going to cost about $600. But it is worth having if you're going to do a lot of stuff. And then there's some new technology that, would you believe, I'll show you that, is a box called a dispatch box. If you open it up inside, it's a Raspberry Pi computer running a little piece of software that you can download off of the Inquality website, and with an IP address, with a SIP address, preferably from Inquality, but you could use one of the free ones, you have an audio codec. It connects to a USB mic. So my Rode mic and this is an audio codec. That is roughly about, I don't know, if you buy one off the Pi Hut, it's about 100 quid. And if you want to go one stage further, you have a big boy version like that with a screen on the front of it. And I have an even bigger boy version sitting on my desk as well, which is a touchscreen one, so I can just click a button and touch a button and away we go. So remote direction, remote contribution is very, very of the moment. So let's get you established. Let's get you on the road to being a VO. Let's get you some kit. Let's get you some software. You start playing with the software, and then eventually you'll be talking about remote direction and remote contribution as well. So that's the future. Any questions?
There's no new questions in here, but one observation, Roger. When you were going through the do's and don'ts with what type of equipment to buy and not buy, a couple of people said, oh no, I've got that piece of equipment, which Roger just told us not to buy.
What have you bought? The question is, what have you bought?
I saw a snowball and a Yeti. The chat was going quite quickly at that point, but I suppose just some reassurance that they can, use that, but would not need to.
Let's put it like this. You can use them by all means. They are great for learning the stagecraft associated with voiceover. They'll give you that opportunity to use your vocal talents. It'll allow you to do something which I think a lot of people forget, is that we are essentially actors, we're artists, we're creatives. So the microphone is the means of us delivering what we do in a form that other people can use it. But there's also a lot of stagecraft that goes on it. If I stand back from the microphone, it sounds very hollow. If I get really close to the microphone, you get that proximity effect, and it makes it sound as if I'm right there in your ear. Sorry, Alan. But you use the microphone to its best effect to create the ambience. So you'll be reading a script that says somebody wants it to be a softly spoken voice, or you wants to be really, really intimate, or they're gonna say to you, "I want you to shout at me." Yeah. So without having to go rushing off and turning the knobs down in the office, which is where my USB interface is, you just use the microphone. So if you have a Snowball, if you have a Blue Yeti, if you have the Yeti Mini, you have the Rode Mini, the Rode NT USB, whatever you have, it is a great tool to learn your craft. And if you are earning money with it right now, then good on you. That's fine. But if somebody was to send me a script, send it to Alan and send it to, let's say, you as a Snowball user, and we were asked to record it raw, and by raw I mean that there's no effects, it's as it is delivered. You can edit any gaffes you make out of it. If you send that to, let's say, one of our business partners like Soho Voices, and you say to Peter, what's what, which is the best quality audio, he might find it difficult to differentiate between Alan and myself, but he will know if someone's used a Snowball, because it's all down to how the microphone works and its frequency response. That's the word I'm looking for. You see, a microphone like mine has got a 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz frequency response. The NT1A has something similar. The Snowball is bound to be something like possibly 16 or 14 kilohertz up to maybe 18. So it's got a much shorter and much more compressed frequency response. It's not as natural sounding because it will take the top and bottom off. So it is important that you have a microphone that captures your voice as it's supposed to sound, if that makes any sense. I tell you, if you have a Blue, a Snowball, a Yeti or whatever, you will have a lot of fun with it, learning the craft. The minute you upgrade to another mic, you will suddenly hear the difference. It's as simple as that. So don't be put off. I say don't buy it. Don't buy it, because what you have to do when you're doing voiceover is you have to budget for things. And what you really need to do first and foremost with voiceover is you have to create a space that is quiet enough to be able to record in, that doesn't produce any echoes or any ambient noise. I'm not sure about you, Alan, but certainly my booth here is a metal box. And if you don't believe me, it's a metal box. But what you can't see is that every panel in this booth, which is 2 meters by 2 meters by 2 meters, has got thousands, if not millions, of tiny holes on them. And behind it has got acoustic treatment. So where Alan has got foam on the back of his, my foam is hidden behind panels. And I've got little bass traps in each of the 4 corners as well. My roof is exactly the same, and I've got a floor that's made up of about 4 different layers. So it is incredibly quiet. It doesn't create any echoes or ambient noise, with exception of the odd aircraft going over, and it will pick up that. But then aircraft make a heck of a noise and a low rumble. So first and foremost, you need to have a space to record in that is quiet, that will block out the sounds of your neighbors mowing the grass, the dogs barking, the kids playing, the aircraft going over. And particularly if you live on a busy road, road traffic. Road traffic makes an incredibly low rumble as it wanders, it drives past your windows. So you need to get the sound right. So that's where, let's say you've budgeted, I don't know, let's pick a figure, 400 quid. Spend 150 on it on soundproofing and then the rest on kit. Yeah. Because again, it goes back to creating beautifully clean audio. You're not hearing my studio in its full glory because of the way Zoom works. It compresses the audio a little bit. If you were to hear this as a separate recording, you would understand how clean and how crisp the audio is coming from here. Same with Alan. When he talks, the audio is being compressed by Zoom. And again, it's just distorting it. When Lisa's using her earbuds, it doesn't matter because the audio is already, no disrespect to Lisa's earbuds, because they're no doubt very expensive. They don't quite have this cut the same sort of sound through. They're perfect for Zooms and bits and pieces. So you have to get the space right. So with that in mind, what does a VoiceOver home studio look like? Well, it's not going to look like this. These are our business partners, VoiceOver Soho. And this is Peter Morris and his setup. Lovely studio. Neumann 87, a little bit of a headphone amp, nice pair of DT100s there, and even a red light to cue you when you needed to speak. Perfect. My red light's actually sitting out on the speaker there. It keeps the family away. And there's a sofa in there, and my sofa's there as well, but yeah, hey, not in my booth. So the reality is that it's going to look a little bit more like some of these VoiceOver Network members' quiet spaces. So are you ready? I don't think I've got a photograph of yours, actually, Alan.
I can send you one.
There we go. So John is a book narrator, and he's in the closet, quite literally. Duvets, blankets, you name it, he's got it. He's also got a little bit of sound screen at the back behind his microphone, but he does it very successfully. Adam does a lot of gaming stuff. You'll see he's got an M-Audio interface there, but also under his stack of games in the corner, he's got a Sonifex 2i, not Sonifex, Focusrite 2i2 audio interface. And his microphone is conveniently jammed between, I think, his jeans and his boxer shorts. So he told me when he sent me that photograph, in his cupboard there. So he's got again, a similar mic to what Alan has. Nano down here records in her flat in Swiss Cottage in London. She has a MacBook. She's running something called Twisted Wave, which is another great piece of software. And she now has a Lewitt microphone. Chris does a load of commercial work, U87, and his studio is made up of plastic pipe and not bed sheets, but acoustic blankets. Barry's currently rebuilding his studio as we speak. You've got Drew up there. He's in the shed at the end of the garden, a bit like myself. Danny is down in Woodbridge, not very far away from me. He has a fantastic setup with a really expensive audio booth, runs Pro Tools, and has got a great mic. But he's also a professional musician, singer, and songwriter as well. And Rory has just built himself a purpose-built studio at the end of his garden. Stuart has got a desk at home with a bit of soundproofing. Beth, again, has got some audio screens and a little sort of acoustic cloud over the top. Stefan Cornicard, he has a shed, I believe, at the end of the garden, but again, he has a very simple setup. Mic, USB audio interface, which is a Focusrite Forte, and a MacBook. Helen is in the basement of her house in Derby. What have we got here? Malk is in Herefordshire, and he is in the shed at the end of his garden, surrounded by acoustic blankets. Diane, something similar. She has something a little bit more complicated because she's got an audio mixer in the process as well. Diane, who lives in Brussels, her studio is between her front door, her shoe dump, and the kitchen. And she has a couple of big curtains that come across, and she's able to record there. Leslie's in her study in the States somewhere. Philip, again, has got a bit of an acoustic booth. Mena has a booth at her home in southeast London, and she tells me proudly that on top of it are all the hats she's worn for royal occasions. No, sorry, weddings. So she's set up there. In fact, she uses a hat box to hold a monitor up in the studio. Katie, she's just had a purpose-built studio from one of the buildings that was associated with her home down in Sussex. Vicky does a lot of localization. She's a Spanish speaker, so she does a lot of English to Spanish, and she has an office in a rented office space in Wimbledon where she has a booth. So she actually physically gets up and goes to work. She can't walk into the booth in her PJs and her slippers. She actually has to physically go to a place to work. Again, these are under the stair sort of affairs. This is where yours would fit in quite nicely, actually, Alan. Yeah. So you got Cheryl under the stairs, Rachel's in the garage, as is Charles there. Mark has just got an Esmono booth like mine, so that's what he originally had. And then there's the sort of travel versions of it. So you might have heard the expression of a pillow fort. This is where you create a acoustically sort of sound space when you're in a hotel room, and you can do it by various measures. Pillow fort at the top there is literally 3 pillows and the laptop in the middle of it. At the bottom there, you've got the luggage rack. So if you ever go to a hotel that's got a luggage rack, that's an ideal space to be able to give you a little bit of height to put your microphone. Get the duvet from the spare bed if you've got one, or if not the bed you're going to sleep in. Put that over the top, few pillows in there, and you've got a recording space. The ironing board and duvet, that was mine in the hotel at Atlanta a few years ago. So literally the ironing board, I had about 5 pillows from the spare bed, my mic inside there, and my laptop, a little tiny audio interface. In fact, this little tiny audio interface, which travels with me, an Audient ID4, because I have a 22 on my desk. And then the one at the bottom is really interesting because that is one of America's leading promo guys. He records every day for several hours for the ABC and NBC networks. And Joe literally travels with a high-end audio interface from Apollo, a Sennheiser 416, and his laptop. And he can make a silk purse out of a sow's ear by just a few discreetly placed pillows and a duvet and a comfy chair, and he successfully does promo work day in, day out from wherever he happens to be around the globe. So you can create spaces quite economically. My quiet space, that's where I am currently. That is my office in the garden. Wasn't taking a photograph of that today, but that's how it's been today. It's been really sunny. That's my office outside on the other side of this wall. So as you can see, it's messy. It's always messy. And this is where I am currently talking to you. So although I do have a clear lectern. So that's my quiet space. And it works really, really well. And I spend a lot of time here self-isolating. Questions before I do, the one last thing.
Okay, so we've got, what is the most basic entry-level setup that would last until you'd get a higher spec?
One last thing. You don't have to spend a fortune on home studio equipment. The Home Voiceover Studio Starter Pack from Focusrite. It's a 2i2. It's their latest microphone. You get a cable to plug it into the USB. You get a cable to plug it into the red box. You get a pair of headphones, and you get a USB lead to plug it into your chosen laptop, your software, whatever that happens to be, Mac or Windows. And of course, there's Audacity in the background. So that is your basic go-to setup. Simple as that. Want to know how much it costs? You can't, I don't know. Can you see it? What does it say underneath there?
I think it says £250.
It does. I wish I could get this box out of the way because it's really annoying. Yeah, £250 and Audacity is free. And if you're a member of the VoiceOver Network, you can get a discount on top of that as well. But that is the latest edition from Focusrite. I have to say, because I've had a play with it, That microphone is outstanding, and that microphone is realistically, and please don't shoot me down, Focusrite, that microphone is about 40 quid, and my microphone here is £1,000. That microphone sounds as good as this one. The audio interface there, it's the 3rd generation. They've worked on it. It does what it says on the tin. It converts from the analog to the digital. It does it beautifully. And they've made a lot of it now solid state, so you're just pushing buttons as opposed to actually physically clicking switches. And the headphones, again, based on, I think they might even be based on the Sony headphones, which you see a lot of sound recording engineers wearing. But again, it's a nice little entry package. So that's what I would go for. Any other questions?
So we've got a few. Time's gone, so guys,
Right,
we'll get through these questions. And if you've got any more, please feel free to use the Facebook group. We've got, if you want to jump straight into recording audio for auditions or to engage in auditions right now, what piece of equipment can you absolutely not cut corners on, or have lower quality before having the finances to upgrade?
Bear with me 1 second. Just bear with me. Just, you know, twiddle your thumbs. Walk out of the office.
It's good microphone. We can still hear you even in the other room.
Right, so that wasn't a deliberate commercial break at all. It was to do this. You can, if you are in a quiet space and you have a mobile phone, one of these, you can record audio quite successfully with the microphone in the bottom of this phone. This is an iPhone 8, because the microphone on this is pretty exceptional. You'll find, I think, with maybe the Galaxy 8, the Galaxy 9 or 10 series, you'll also have good microphones as well. What distinguishes it from it is that you need to have a piece of recording software. There is default recording software within the phone, but if you have an iPhone and you can go onto the App Store and download a piece of software called Twisted Wave. Can you see? The camera might take a bit of time to think. As you can see, it's picking up my voice really, really well. And I'm not even anywhere near the mic, but then of course this is an acoustically soundproof space. And what you do with that audio is it will store it temporarily on your laptop or your PC, on your phone, but you can use the facilities within your phone to either send it to the cloud or to a Dropbox or wherever, and then edit it on another machine. You can, if you really want to, edit it on the machine. If you look at the taskbar at the bottom, you've got all the tools to be able to edit it. So you can use this to record auditions. You can use this to practice recording auditions. You can record anything you want to on it. If you are set on buying something, then you buy what's on the screen now, the Scarlett 2i2 Studio package. They do a solo package as well, which is slightly less expensive, but it has the same kit in it. It's just a single channel version as opposed to a dual channel version. So, yeah. And if you don't want to necessarily go with Focusrite, the company that makes these, Audient, do a Audient Audio Technica package, which has this particular audio interface. The headphones that Alan is wearing, and I have a pair of out on my desk out there, and a very similar mic. Well, it has, I think it has the AT2035, which I mentioned as one of the entry-level mics earlier on, and that comes in at around about a similar price, $250, $279, and that is actually a very nice package. There's a VoiceOver network member called Keris. She did a Facebook yesterday afternoon, Facebook Live, talking about her studio. And when she built her home studio, she asked me what to buy, and I recommended the Audient package, the Audient Audio Technica package. And then afterwards, I discovered that she was actually a well-experienced voiceover artist, but had only ever worked in studios, never at home. And she's the voice of McDonald's. She's the voice of all the big brands you could possibly think of. And I suggested to her, and she bought a £279 package for her studio. She gets no complaints whatsoever from any of the producers or the clients she works with from home. But again, going back to what I said at the beginning, it's all about sending good quality, clean audio to the destination. They don't know how the sausage is made. They don't need to know how the sausage is made. They just need to taste it at the other end, if you know what I mean. Yeah? You put a sausage on a barbecue, you eat it, oh, it's nice. Do you care about how it's made? No. Same with the audio. Providing you can send good quality, clean audio to the other end, it doesn't matter what you use. Anything else?
What can you do if you don't have any cubby holes, or if you don't have an IKEA wardrobe or an obvious quiet space?
Seriously, if you can find a surface, if you can find something that resembles a desk and a chair, and a 10-tog duvet, simple as that, put it over your head. I know it sounds very flippant, but seriously, it does work. And in times of desperate measures, if you just put a really good duvet over your head and record, you'll get a fairly good effect. And that goes back to when you're building a booth, you don't have to necessarily have something like I've got or Alan's got. You can use the old ironing board and duvet bit to create that atmosphere. The other elements, of course, is that if you're going to record, you just need to make sure, as I said, I think, make sure the dogs aren't barking, the kids aren't screaming, the washing machine's not on, the fridge freezer is not flicking on and off, and people aren't, I don't know, listening to Netflix or Spotify really, really loud. You just need that quiet space. You need to be ideally on your own, but not everyone has that luxury of being on their own when they need to do something. I suppose there are technical ways of mitigating some of the noise that you get in your recordings, but that's another story from another day, I think, because that's stepping it up a level. Let's, as I said earlier, let's get you on the road to being a voiceover artist. Let's get you some gear. Let's get you that quiet space, then the gear, and then but you can practice now. You can practice reading scripts in the shower in the morning. Simple as that. Start using your voice. And actually, the shower in the morning is a great place because it warms your voice up. Do your vocal routine in the shower, and then you're set for the day. I'm talked out today because I've been doing an awful lot of it. So my voice is just about on the tail end of being anything reasonable. And fortunately, I've not seen an email come in saying they need to record something urgently. So I'm okay. Yeah, try and experiment. Try and find the quietest place where you live, and then identify that, and then you're on the road to being able to record some quiet audio. Any more questions?
Yeah, we've got two really quick ones. So, would you recommend a pop shield or a reflection filter?
Oh, very good question. If you are particularly poppy when you're pronouncing things, you have a pop shield. Most people will have a pop shield, and pop shields vary in quality. Some are better than others, but it does stop those plosives hitting the microphone. If you're talking really close to the microphone and you're doing a lot of poppy sounds, I don't think you can hear me popping the microphone. But if I take that away and go pop, you can hear the mic just reacting to the pop. And as for reflection filters, they serve a purpose. However, you do have to follow the instructions in the box to set it up properly because it's optimum point. It's basically, obviously, a half of a circle. It's sort of that shape, and the thing, you position the microphone dead center at the front. If you were to put a rule across the front of the reflection filter, you'll have the arc behind you, and the microphone, the front of the microphone needs to sit right at the edge of that rule. So it's right at the front of the pop filter, or the reflection filter, for it to work. If you move it too far back, or you have it outside of that reflection filter, it doesn't work. And I learnt that very quickly when I set mine up. I had one a very, very long time ago. I set it up and went, it doesn't make any difference. And then I read the instructions. It's always good to read the instructions. And then if you set it up properly, then it will work and it will focus the sound. But it is not going to cure all your audio ills if you're in a noisy space.
All right. Do you have any homework for us, Roger?
Homework. I don't normally do homework on this session because it's all about giving you information about what to go out and buy. I think if we go back to a question earlier about getting set up, I think you can use your phone. You can use, if you've got a snowball or a Yeti or whatever, just practice. So, and the more familiar you are with your kit, it won't come as a surprise to you if something doesn't work. If you know how your kit is connected, if it's USB, it's a case of just plug the USB in. And then, but you've got to maybe do some, I don't know, a little bit of investigating in your laptop if it's not working properly. If it's via an audio interface, you know, you've got the mic, you've got the interface, you've got the computer. Know how your kit is connected and how it works optimally for you. But at the end of the day, all this kit and the software is just enabling you to be able to record audio, and at the thing that it records is you talking to the microphone. So it's an enabler. All this kit is enabling you to do what you want to do as a voiceover artist. So the homework would be just practice reading into the phone. Nobody has said, and I'm pleased to see it, nobody has said, but I don't like the sound of my own voice. Because some people have, and that's because they don't hear themselves on a regular basis. They don't hear themselves coming back at themselves. They might have an answer phone message on their mobile or landline, if anyone has one of those these days, and they'll go, oh, I really don't like the sound of my own voice. Get used to liking the sound of your own voice, because you're going to hear an awful lot of it. And of course, what you hear when you hear yourself being played back is what other people hear you as. Yeah. You have the added benefit of listening to yourself through the bone structure of your face and your head, and it adds to the sound. Yeah. Take that away and listen to yourself being played back on a piece of audio software. And that's how you sound to your friends, your family, your loved ones, to producers, to clients, to anyone you come into contact and you speak with. So yes, there's going to be a little bit of difference. So I suppose the homework would be, go and download Audacity, irrespective if you've got any kit or not, because your laptop or your desktop is bound to have a microphone, and start recording and listening to yourself. Simple as that. And then if we've got half the number of people on the course next week, we know there's a lot of people who don't like the sound of their own voice.
Brilliant. Wonderful. Okay, so Lisa...
Oh, that was a bit long. Goodness gracious me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 20 past 5. But it was really, really good. Thank you so much, Roger. That was a really, really informative session. A couple of the attendees have even said that they need to listen to it back, so that's exciting.
Good. Well, if in doubt, just find me on the internet and send me an email. No problem.
Most of my equipment has come from first checking it by Roger to see what he thinks. So, you know, his word is solid. Lisa sends her apologies. Her internet has completely died. She's in Florida at the moment, so she's not sort of got her usual setup. So she sends her apologies. For those of you who are VoiceOver Network members, We've got a Facebook Live with Rachel in 10 minutes, and we've also got the workout group at 6 o'clock. So both of those things are free for you guys who are Bond members. And then the only other thing I would say is if you are about to invest in some new equipment and you're a VoiceOver Network member, please do make use of the discounts that you get with people like Rode and Focusrite. You can save a good amount of money there on your products. And yeah, that's all from me, I believe. Anything else from you, Roger?
No, absolutely not. I'm going to go and find some water to drink because I'm a little bit dehydrated after standing in here. But have a great week. I know there's more to come with regard to VoiceOver Studios this week, and wish you all well.
If any of you are not in the Facebook group, I'm going to put an email address in the chat now. Please email Lisa and she can get you into the Facebook group. And make use of the Facebook group, ask any questions you've got, share anything you want, and you know, calibrate with one another. It's a good opportunity to sort of refine during the week as well. But until then, thank you everybody for tuning in.
That's all right.
Thank you so much, Roger.
No problems at all.
Right then. Thank you everyone. Cheerio. Bye now.